Hi, I'm Peter Hawley, President and CEO of Fabled Copper Corp, and today I'd like to tell you about our Toro property, where we sampled up to 1.46% copper during our 2021 surface field work on our Muskwa copper project. The Muskwa project is comprised of the Neil property, the Toro property, and the Bronson property, all located in northern British Columbia. As you can see, to date, we've reported on the geology and sampling on numerous copper occurrences on the Neil and the Bronson properties, in addition to the related geophysics and UAV drone missions. We now would like to report our findings on the Toro property conducted during the 2021 summer field season. For some background, let's start with the geology of the Toro property. The Toro property is underlain by the interbedded dolostone and slaty argillites of the Proterozoic Eta Formation and red weathered siliciclastic sandstone and conglomerates of the unconformable overlying the Cambrian Sylvia Formation. East of the main Toro mineral occurrences, clastic sedimentary rocks of the Tertioid Formation occur. Cambrian stratigraphy occurs predominantly within the western half of the property and Proterozoic stratigraphy in the east. And here is an example of where the Proterozoic sedimentary rocks are cut by several large north-northeast trending diabase dikes, which in the western area of the showings are truncated and unconformably overlain by the vari-colored clastic Cambrian strata of the Sylvia Formation. Taylor et al. In 1973 interpreted a major northwest trending southwest dipping thrust fault to be located approximately 1 kilometer northeast of the property. Copper mineralization occurring in the quartz carbonate veins appears to be highly variable and discontinuous. Pareto in 1971 suggested that the better mineralized veins are older than the dikes, occurring either as inclusions inside the dikes or as panels along or near the side of the dikes. The Toro claims encompass 4 mineral occurrences summarized below, as I'll talk about, from information from the BC mine files. The main showing outcrop is on top of a 2,438 meter high north to south trending ridge. The remnants of an old helicopter pad on the ridge top and other old workings are still visible. The Ho and John occurrences and the Target 11 anomaly on the Toro property were prospected over 5 days and 13 samples of float were collected. The Ho and Target 11 were prospected and traversed, and this was started on the west branch of the Churchill Creek and continued upslope along an old dozer switchback trail to within 65 meters. At a slope of 37 degrees of the whole vein, it is exposed on a northeast trending rock face at an altitude of 1,400 meters. 5 examples of quartz carbonate float with copper mineralization and shale to siltstone fragments were sampled at elevations of 1,166 to 1,365 meters. 4 of the 5 samples contained 1.16 to 1.46% copper, and the 5th sample, D-723210, collected from the furthest vein exposure at the lowest elevation, assayed 0.66% copper. The 5 samples contained 1 to 5% chalcopyrite, abundant malachite, and a trace of boronite. The Target 11 was a proposed exploration target and is comprised of 2 anomalies located 1 and 1.35 kilometers north of the exposure of the whole vein, and the downslope area east of the anomalies was prospected and 5 samples of float were collected at elevations of 1,111 to 1,154 meters. The highest copper content, 0.97%, was found in sample 723518, which was comprised of weathered wacke and quartz sulfides, approximately 1% chalcopyrite, and a trace of azurite and boronite. Samples D-723517, 520, and 521 of quartz carbonate veining with shale siltstone fragments, minor chalcopyrite, and trace amounts of boronite contained 0.11, 0.3 and 0.38% copper respectively. Also, a sample of Wacky with 3 to 5% pyrite assayed low in copper, at approximately 0.005%. While prospecting the anomalies of the target 11, an exposed quartz vein was seen upslope to the west, and the helicopter placed the crew upslope, and 2 quartz veins striking approximately 355 degrees at an altitude of 1,767 meters were observed across the east trending ravine to the north. These veins lie 1.1 kilometers north and along strike of the whole vein exposure. Now, the John occurrence wasn't found or seen in outcrop while prospecting a valley and valley-old switchback dozer trails, east and northwest, respectively, of the supposedly location of the occurrence. 3 examples of quartz carbonate float were collected at elevations of 1,693 to 1,783 meters. These samples contain no sulfide content and assayed low in copper. The locations of the Toro and Churchill occurrences were overflown, and the Toro veins and some old workings were observed from the air. But rough terrain and lack of climbing aids prevented prospecting in the area. The plotted locations of the Churchill occurrence was also overflown, but no veining or copper alteration was observed. In summary, a total of 13 samples were collected across the Toro property in 2021, with grades ranging from subanomalous to 1.46% copper. Cobalt values were significantly anomalous at the whole occurrence, and anomalous barite was characteristic of samples collected at the John occurrence, whereas manganese is also anomalous in samples from both the John and the whole occurrence. All samples taken were photographed and a GPS location recorded, plus a metal sample tag left in place for future references if required. All this data, plus the assay results, were geotagged and placed in a .kml or .kmz file for use in such as Google Earth for easy reference. For an example, here's the exact location and assay results from sample D-723518, which assayed 0.97% copper. Mineralization encountered within the Toro claims consists of copper-bearing quartz iron carbonates, veins hosted in Proterozoic carbonates. A spatial correlation exists between this vein-hosted mineralization and the presence of Neoproterozoic diabase units. No data currently exists demonstrating a temporal relationship. However, given the spatial coincidence of the 2 features and the exploitation of similar structures, it is plausible they are genetically related, and this will be examined during the 2021 field season. Follow us as we explore for fabled green copper in northern British Columbia.